Hello and welcome to NANI, Did I Just Read? A panel presented to you by the Carolina Manga Library. First thing you're going to want to know is, what's the Carolina Manga Library? Well, the Carolina Manga Library is a traveling nonprofit library that sets up at schools, hospitals, children's shelters, and public libraries and conventions to promote free access to graphic novels. We have a 5,000 book library, and we travel all over the U.S. And we were very happy to be here based in Fayetteville, and we were very, very happy to be asked by the Cumberland County Public Library to give you this little book talk. So we're going to be going through some suggestions of some of the strangest and most interesting things that we've read over the last few years. If you want more information on our library, please just visit the website on your screen. It's just carolinamangalibrary.com. And you can follow us on social media, and when you do, say hi. We like it when people say hi. So we're going to start off with a suggestion about action. Elfquest is written by Wendy and Richard Pini, and it is the longest running, still published fantasy series in the United States. It's been published for over 40 years now, and it's still going. It's an epic fantasy. It's full fantasy where there's no reality in this at all. A group of elves live in the woods, and they ride on wolves, and their names are creatively the Wolf Riders. And one day, their small tribe gets threatened when a bunch of humans burn down their forest. So they go on the run, and during their running, they find another tribe of elves in the middle of the desert, and they didn't know that there were other elves anywhere on the planet. So they figure out that there are lost and scattered tribes of elves all over this world with two moons. So the leader, Cutter, who is the main character on the screen that you can see with the blonde hair, he decides that he is going to go through this whole world, and he is going to find all the scattered children of the High Ones. This series is absolutely gorgeous. The art is amazing. Every character is completely unique. They're all different races, they're all different colors, they're all different shapes, they're all different sizes. There's a little bit of everything in this series for everyone. They do a lot of good work making sure that people of all shapes and sizes are included, all different variations of every kind of person you could think of. They're all represented here with these elves. The storyline is really based towards older teens and adults. If you're under the age of 15, I probably wouldn't read this. But you can. I mean, I started when I was 7, so it didn't hurt me at all. But there are a lot of adult themes. There's war, there's some 18 plus adult themes. But most of it is about brotherhood and discovering yourself and discovering who you are. It's a series that, for most people, you'll read it and it'll be probably the best fantasy thing you've ever read in your life, because it's that good. You don't have to be a fan of comic books to read Elfquest. Elfquest is accessible to everybody. And luckily, if you don't want to read it, they're coming out with an audio movie next year. So you can follow their social media and figure out what they're going to do with that next. Okay, so I'm a romance junkie. If you cut into my skin, I bleed glitter and shoujo. So this suggestion, this is actually, okay, so this is a webtoon. If you don't have the webtoon app on your phone yet, you can go download it for free. Webtoon is a compository of independently published comics from all over the world that are all published through the webtoon app and are updated either every week, every 3 days, sometimes it's whenever they can. So it's a huge resource for all kinds of new stories that you may never have read before. So let's talk about Blades of Furry. This is about anthropomorphized animals who do martial arts figure skating, who are gay, very much in love, and vampires. So you've got Twilight mixed with Ranma 1/2 mixed with Yuri on Ice. I mean, what's not to love, right? Basically, the story is that the little deer boy on the cover here, he fights Rodru, who is the current leading champion of this martial arts figure skating group. And he fights Rodru, and he wins by accident because he accidentally cuts his hand, and Rodru, who is a vampire, goes crazy. And he forfeits the match, so he doesn't reveal that he's a vampire because vampires aren't allowed to be martial arts figure skaters for some reason. I haven't figured out why yet. I've been reading this series for several months now, and I still don't know why vampires are banned. But they fall madly in love, and they're super cute, and these other characters are trying to expose Roger for being a vampire, and Emir, the main character, is just trying to get better and make Roger happy, and it's so cute and sweet, and it's got some really interesting martial arts battles with figure skating. So at the same time that you're doing your triple lutzes and your quad toe loops, at the same time you're trying to knock your opponent down. So it's a really, really fun series. It updates once a week on Webtoon. Again, we're going to talk about a couple of Webtoons during this little panel. So if you haven't have Webtoons yet, go get Webtoons. You will thank me. Ooh, let's talk about scary things. Shibuya Goldfish. Giant murderous alien goldfish that can fly and talk, invade Earth, and eat you. It's literally a vampire. It's a zombie series with giant flying talking goldfish. Oh no, it's time for the cameo. Oh no. Hi. Hello, little miss. One of our library cats is making a small cameo. Hopefully you'll hear her in the background, so I apologize for any noise that she's going to contribute. So she's now background noise. So Shibuya Goldfish it's written just like every vampire. I'm still thinking about the gay figure skaters. It's every zombie story you've ever heard in your life, except instead of zombies, they are literally giant flying man-eating goldfish, and they lay babies in your chest, and the eggs hatch out of your chest like Alien from the Alien series. It's as funny and it's as stupid and as uncomplicated as you could ever want, and it's full of just the most wonderful body horror because they're giant flying goldfish, and they say things like hat and crosswalk while they're eating you, while they eat your head off. Oh god, it's so good. I got this series donated to us from a random person who gave me a whole box of manga, and I opened this up and I was like, this can't be what I think it is. And I opened the book and I read it, and this book is actually what inspired me to write NANI. The heck did I just read? Because this is one of those series that it can't be this. It simply, nobody could write a series about this and get it published, but gosh darn it, somebody did. So yeah, Shibuya Goldfish. Giant flying carnivorous speaking alien goldfish that eats you. Let's lighten it back up, shall we? Okay, let's talk about Phoebe and Her Unicorn. This is one of my favorite finds from quarantine. This was another series that actually the children's librarian over at the North Branch found and showed me. If you haven't been to his stuff, you need to go check out Mr. Aaron's panels. He's great. Phoebe and Her Unicorn is about a little girl who is walking through the woods one day, and she finds a unicorn staring at itself in a puddle of water in a lake. And the little girl's like, well, aren't you going to do anything? And the unicorn basically says, I can't move because I'm trapped. I'm staring at myself and how awesome I am and how beautiful I am in this lake, and I'm surely going to perish. So the little girl kind of looks at the unicorn funny for a minute and then throws a rock into the lake, immediately freeing the unicorn. The unicorn says, oh my goodness. Oh, I, Marigold Heavenly Nostrils, will now grant you a wish, tiny human. And the tiny human, of course, being a tiny human, says, well, why don't we just be best friends now? So now it's literally a story about this little girl and her unicorn, and they go to school, and they have dealings with the goblin tribe, who have their entire language is composed of one word, blart, and the many different ways to say it. And just the fascinating world of unicorns in this world. Unicorns invented bowling and roller skating and everything else you can think of. They pretty much invented because they're awesome. Marigold's favorite thing to say is whenever she says something absurd that a unicorn's created, Phoebe always looks at her and she's like, you serious? And Marigold just tosses her head and says, unicorn! And it's so wonderful. She's so full of herself, but she's not a jerk. That's just what she is. She's just a unicorn. So this series has at least 10 books in it now, and every single book just gets funnier and funnier. They introduce all these great characters. There's Todd, who is the local dragon who doesn't spit fire, he spits candy. Um, they meet another dragon who controls the weather and eats electricity. And this is such a fun series to get lost in, and it's universal. I mean, you can read it as an adult, as a teenager, as a child, and you're gonna find something great about it no matter what. I was expecting this to be super childish and just not funny at all, and just geared towards really little kids. And then I started reading it, and it's like Calvin and Hobbes. It reminded me a lot of Calvin and Hobbes, just with more glitter. So you can read Calvin and Hobbes at any age and get something out of it. Phoebe and Her Unicorn's the same way. I know, I didn't put Elfquest in fantasy. What's wrong with me? Well, I wanted to talk about Labyrinth, because Labyrinth! Who doesn't love Labyrinth? David Bowie, Jim Henson Company, Get Lost in the Labyrinth, Kidnap the Baby. Woohoo! Everybody loves that movie, and if you don't love that movie, you need to go watch it. So, a few years ago, the Jim Henson Company got together and decided they wanted to expand the world of some of their most popular franchises. So they decided to write a prequel series to the Labyrinth. So this series is about how Jareth became the Goblin King after his mother went through the labyrinth. So the fun thing about it, though, is if you've seen the movie, which I'm sure you have, the story is being told by the Goblin King Jareth to the baby that he kidnapped while they're watching Sarah go through the labyrinth. So it's being told during the movie. It's being told by Jareth and by one of his little head goblins who is kind of watching the baby. So it's fun because Jareth is telling this idealized story, like, oh, my mother was this great paragon and she was, magical and everything. And then the goblin tells the real story. But it all takes place during the movie. Like, he comes in at one point just after the magic dance scene, and the goblin looks at him and says, "Sir, did you just do another musical number?" And the Goblin King says, "What business is it of yours? I'm going to continue my story to the child now." So it's 3 books long, excuse me. It's an excellent story, expansion of the story. And if you loved Labyrinth, you will love this. It's written by some of the same authors and people who actually worked on the original story of Labyrinth. So it's a great thing to just kind of dive into. Okay, so reality is going to be realistic fiction. So it's going to be no fantasy, no monsters, no magic, nothing like that. But, okay, so most people who are nerdy at this point and are really into manga and anime and comics and things like that have at least heard of Full Metal Alchemist. Okay, you've either seen it or you've seen the memes or you've at least watched it. It's on Netflix. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. Anyway, when the author of Full Metal Alchemist finished Full Metal Alchemist, her next series was called Silver Spoon. She did a complete 180. She wrote this beautiful, wonderful, techie, steampunky kind of story with deep underlying themes and this great fantasy world building, and then she turns around and writes this. Okay, so Silver Spoon is about a guy who just finished middle school and he's getting ready to go to high school, and he applies to every high school that he can find outside of Tokyo that's as far away from Tokyo as he can get that has dorms. He doesn't care what they study. He just needs to get out. Okay? He's one of those kids who was pushed really hard by his father to be successful and to get straight A's all the time. And he's been in all these cram classes. And he's got to go to the perfect college and all that good stuff. And he completely burned out of school. But he knows that he's got to go. He's got to get away from his house. He can't just drop out and go get a job. He needs to get away. So he applies to an agricultural high school way out in the middle of nowhere. So you basically took a city boy and you dropped him in the middle of nowhere on a farm with all of these kids who have been on farms their whole lives, and he doesn't know how to milk a cow, and he doesn't know how he accidentally names a baby piglet that's being raised to be turned into bacon. He's never seen a horse before, and he ends up joining the equestrian club. It sounds really funny, and it is really funny. There's a lot of really funny parts of this, but the biggest part of the story and what kept me going through it was watching our main character kind of get over the idea that he had to be this one thing that his father said he was going to be. It's about him finding himself, and it's about the reality of the agricultural world. The author takes great pains to go in and actually explain a lot of things about agriculture that I didn't even know. There's an entire chapter dedicated to how meat is processed and what a slaughterhouse actually is. And the other cool thing about this series is that it's not all happy-go-lucky. It goes into the less pleasant sides of the agricultural world. People where one bad season, one big storm can completely obliterate your entire year's, crops, your salary, your entire livelihood. And there's even a character whose family's farm literally has to close down because of financial issues, and he's got to drop out of school and go get a job because he doesn't have his livelihood anymore. And the fact that the author took the time to really go into those kind of things and didn't just write a simple story. I've come to expect this from this author now. She doesn't write simple little happy-go-lucky stories. She goes deep into whatever she decides to write about, and you learn so much from reading her stuff. So I absolutely loved Silver Spoon. Luckily, we did get an American release of this. I'm so happy because I bought every single book. There is another anime of it too that covers the first probably 4 books, but it's excellent. Silver Spoon, I was so surprised. I did not expect to like this series. I thought it was going to be boring. It was so good. All right, so now we're getting into our unique suggestion. So, this is They Called Us Enemy. This is a really, really, really important graphic novel. It's written by George Takei. If you don't know who that is, I promise you actually do know who he is. You just don't know his name. He's the guy that you see all over the internet that says, "Oh my," he's like he's a gay icon. He was on Star Trek. He's a huge part of the pop culture world. Well, he was a child during World War II, and his family lived in California. Well, in California, in World War II, the United States did something really, really bad. And they rounded up everybody of Japanese origin, Japanese descent, and they put them into camps. Literally, into barbed wire resettlement camps until World War II was over, because they said, well, you're obviously going to be more loyal to Japan than you are to the United States, so you have to be put somewhere where you can be watched. And Mr. Takei lived through that. And when he got older, he decided he needed to share this really important story about what it was like to be rounded up and taken away from your family and your school and your friends and put into a camp by the country that you were literally raised in. It's a really important story to read, especially right now with everything that's going on in the world, especially in the United States. It's such an important book to really make you think and make you really question what you know and what you understand about who you are as a person and as a country and as a human. It was such a powerful read. I sobbed like a 5-year-old reading this book, and I actually went and met Mr. Takei at a convention, and I had him sign this book for the library. And he just looked at me and says, "I can't believe you're actually going to put this into a library." That's exactly what I wanted. I wanted people to read this and know that this happened, because it's not something that we really think about and we learn about in school. It's one of those hidden histories that we don't get to know about unless you read something like this and then you read deeper past what you're taught in school. So that's why this is in this panel, because this is such a unique, wonderful series. All right, guys, we are down to the very last one for this panel. If you've enjoyed this, please, please, please do me a favor. Drop a comment down below. Slap a like on the video. I do this panel a lot at conventions, and if we get enough people liking it online like this, then I may make it like a monthly thing or a bi-weekly thing where I just go like deep dives. So I really enjoyed making this. So like I said, follow us on social media, Carolina Manga Library. Let us know what you thought of this, because I really enjoyed doing it. All right. Jason Porath, who is one of the best people I've ever met in my life, wrote these 2 books called Rejected Princesses and Tough Mothers. These are historical and folklore women who Disney will never ever make a movie out of, because they are too amazing. They're too awesome. They're too, forgive me for saying it, but they're too badass. Okay? Rejected Princesses focuses on individual women, where, great leaders, great stories from folklore, and Tough Mothers, of course, obviously focuses on women who were mothers, who risked everything for their families. One of the Tough Mothers stories is about a woman whose husband he ruled a duchy in France, and the king of France executed him, and she said, "Oh no, you're coming for my children. I'm going to become a pirate, and I'm going to just completely destroy your navy single-handedly." because you dared to threaten my children. And her whole story is in there. There's beautiful illustrations of the different characters and the different pits of history. And Rejected Princesses, I mean, my favorite story is about an old Chinese woman who, during one of the many, many uprisings in China, she sent her sons off to war and they never came back. So she turned her farm into a kind of healing house for soldiers who were wounded. And she pretty much adopted all these wounded boys, and she like raised them and she fixed them and she healed them. And at one point they were like, "What can we ever do to repay you?" And she says, "Well, just once in my life I'd like to be supreme ruler of China." And her boys all said, "Okay." So they literally overthrew the government to make her the empress. Yeah, it's the kind of stories like that make me happy. So, Rejected Princesses and Tough Mothers by Jason Porath. You can pick these up anywhere, Amazon. I have them in my library, so if you see me at a convention or a school or something, you can come read them with me. Um, Thank you so much for listening for the last 20 minutes or so to me. I know that it was a lot to kind of get through, and I know this is a little long, but I have more stories. We get donations every day, and I have to read new stories every day because you never know when there's something that's inappropriate to put into the library that we get donated. So follow us along, come on our journey with us through social media, and I hope you all really enjoy LibrariCon. Thank you very much for the Cumberland County Public Library for inviting me to come and record this little version of this panel for you. Normally this lasts like an hour. So if you're interested in seeing me talk for an hour about different stories, let me know in the comments below. I'd be really interested to hear what you have to say. I hope you all have a great day, morning, noon, night, wherever you're watching this, and take care of yourselves and wear your mask.